The Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, and Peaky Blinders. He now stars in Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk. Please welcome Cillian Murphy.
Before he held the weight of the atomic bomb in his eyes, before the world watched him become the father of modern destruction, before stadiums of fans whispered the name Tommy Shelby like a legend carved in smoke, there was a quiet Irish musician who never planned to be famous. He didn't chase Hollywood. He didn't beg for attention. He didn't build his career on noise. Instead, he built it on stillness, on control, on intensity, so subtle that you almost miss it, until you can't look away. This is the story of Cillian Murphy, the actor who proved that you don't need to shout to dominate the screen. You just need to make the world lean in and listen. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Boy from Cork. Cillian Murphy was born on May 25, 1976, in Douglas, County Cork, Ireland. Raised in a quiet academic household, his father worked in education, and structure defined his early life. Acting was not the dream. Music was. As a teenager, he was obsessed with rock bands, forming his own group and chasing record deals. For years, he believed his future would be on stage with a guitar, not under cinematic lights. That early connection to music shaped his rhythm as a performer. Even today, his acting feels like a slow-burning composition rather than an explosive performance. But life rarely follows the script we imagine. A university theater production changed everything. When he stepped onto the stage, something shifted. The same intensity he once poured into music found a new outlet. Acting wasn't about fame, it was about transformation. Chapter 2, 28 Days Later. The Face That Changed Horror. The world first truly noticed him in 28 Days Later, directed by Danny Boyle. His haunting blue eyes, combined with vulnerability and fear, created an unforgettable performance. He didn't look like a traditional action survivor. He looked human, fragile, confused, terrified. And that realism made the film revolutionary. Suddenly, Hollywood saw something different. Not a loud star, not a bodybuilder hero, but a thinking actor. Chapter 3. Enter Christopher Nolan. Then came the collaboration that would quietly define decades. Christopher Nolan. From Batman Begins to Inception, Murphy became Nolan's secret weapon. Even in supporting roles, he stole attention. As Scarecrow, he wasn't physically terrifying. He was psychologically disturbing. His calmness made him dangerous. But the partnership was building towards something bigger. Chapter 4. Becoming Tommy Shelby. In 2013, Peaky Blinders premiered, and with it, television history changed. Tommy Shelby wasn't just a gangster. He was trauma personified. World War scars hidden behind tailored suits. A leader who spoke softly but commanded rooms. Cillian Murphy played him not as a villain, but as a wounded strategist. The show became a global obsession. The haircut became iconic. The walk became a meme. The stare became legendary. But here's what made it special. He never glamorized violence. He internalized pain. That emotional complexity turned Peaky Blinders into more than a crime series. It became character study television. Chapter 5. The Long Road to Oppenheimer. After nearly 2 decades of collaboration, Christopher Nolan finally handed Murphy the lead role in Oppenheimer. Robert Oppenheimer was not a hero, not a villain, but a man burdened by genius. To play him required restraint, intellect, and emotional control. The performance wasn't loud. It was layered. His eyes carried guilt before dialogue ever began. The film dominated globally. Critics praised him. Awards followed. But what mattered most was this. After years of supporting brilliance, he finally stood at the center. And he didn't explode with ego. He stayed quiet. Chapter 6. Fame without fame. Unlike many A-list actors, Cillian Murphy avoids Hollywood parties. He lives in Ireland, not Los Angeles. He rarely uses social media. He protects his family fiercely. Interviews are minimal. Headlines are rare. In an industry obsessed with exposure, he chooses absence. And paradoxically, that absence makes him more powerful. Mystery has become his brand. Chapter 7. The acting style that feels different. Murphy doesn't act with exaggerated gestures. He acts with micro-expressions. His performances demand patience. You don't watch him casually. You study him. His eyes often speak more than his voice. His stillness builds tension. Directors trust him with complexity because he understands silence. In modern cinema, where spectacle dominates, he proves minimalism can be unforgettable. Chapter 8: Legacy in Motion. What makes Cillian Murphy different isn't just talent. It's longevity without scandal. Over 2 decades, he has avoided controversy, maintained artistic integrity, and chosen scripts carefully. He never chased superhero fame. He never relied on tabloid drama. He built slowly, and slowly became undeniable. Chapter 9: The Weight of Intelligence. After the overwhelming global impact of Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy was no longer simply respected. He was studied, analyzed, and redefined in the public imagination as an actor capable of carrying the intellectual gravity of a historical figure whose decisions reshaped humanity itself. And what made his performance extraordinary was not theatrical intensity, but the internal storm he allowed to simmer beneath a controlled exterior. Because instead of portraying J. Robert Oppenheimer as a loud, scientific genius driven by ego, Murphy leaned into fragility, isolation, and moral conflict, presenting a man whose mind moved faster than his heart could process. And in doing so, he forced audiences to sit with discomfort rather than spectacle, which is something very few leading actors are willing to risk in an era dominated by explosive blockbusters and fast-paced storytelling. What truly separates Murphy from many of his contemporaries is his understanding that intelligence on screen must feel dangerous but never performative. And throughout his career, he has mastered the ability to portray characters who think before they speak, who observe before they react, and who calculate before they move. And that layered stillness has become his signature strength, transforming scenes that might otherwise feel ordinary into psychological chess matches where the tension builds. Not through shouting or physical confrontation, but through eye contact, silence, and micro-expressions that communicate volumes without requiring exposition. Chapter 10: The Discipline Behind the Persona. Behind the controlled intensity that defines his performances lies an almost obsessive level of preparation and discipline, because Cillian Murphy does not approach roles casually. He researches deeply, isolates himself mentally when necessary, and often immerses himself in the emotional environment of his characters long before cameras begin rolling. Yet he avoids the dramatic public displays of method acting that often dominate headlines, choosing instead to keep his process private and focused, which reflects his broader philosophy toward fame and craft. The work must always be bigger than the narrative around the work. Unlike many actors who relocate permanently to Hollywood and embrace its social circuits, Murphy deliberately chose to remain rooted in Ireland, returning to Cork and later settling in Dublin with his family, prioritizing stability over spectacle. And this decision has allowed him to maintain perspective in an industry that frequently distorts identity, because by physically distancing himself from the constant noise of Los Angeles, he preserved the quiet mental space necessary to refine his artistry. And that separation has arguably strengthened his performances, giving them authenticity unclouded by celebrity excess. From a teenage musician in Cork to the face of one of the most important films of the decade, Cillian Murphy's journey is proof that success does not require noise. It requires discipline, patience, depth. He didn't become famous by demanding attention. He became legendary by deserving it. In a world screaming for validation, he whispers, and the world listens. If you want next,